At a high-end cafe, a black waitress quietly wipes down tables, doing her best to keep her life from falling apart. But when she notices a blind girl sitting alone at a VIP table, struggling to clean up spilled water, she steps in without hesitation, gently guiding the child's hands, offering comfort and a warm drink. What she doesn't know is that the girl's mother, a billionaire, is watching from outside, and what none of them know is that this simple act of kindness is about to change all of their lives forever. It was 4:45 p.m., and the soft hum of conversation mixed with the faint clinking of cutlery at Café Lumino, a quiet, upscale coffeehouse tucked between two galleries in the cultural district of Newford. A light jazz melody floated through the air, and the smell of ground espresso mingled with the crispness of early autumn. The café was a favorite of politicians' wives and executives with assistants who always ordered just one ice cube in their water. In the middle of it all, seated at a corner table marked "Reserved," was a young girl. She sat very still, hands folded in her lap, her back straight like she'd been trained to be perfect. Her sunglasses, too large for her small face, covered her eyes, but her chin trembled just slightly. She reached out gently across the table, fingers brushing for something that wasn't there. To the Braille menu. Lena Carter murmured to herself as she wiped down the marble countertop. Her brows furrowed. The 27-year-old waitress, tall and graceful, with rich espresso Provence skin and coiled black hair pulled into a loose bun, had seen many types of guests in her 2 years at Lumino. But this child was different. Lena had worked this floor long enough to recognize when someone was abandoned, and when someone had just been left behind too long. This was the first. She turned toward the barista. "Has anyone taken table 5 yet?" she asked, her voice low, careful not to draw attention. Kevin Jennings, the floor manager, didn't look up from his phone. He was in his late 30s, white, sharply dressed in navy slacks and a starched shirt that hugged his trim frame. His tone was clipped, corporate. "Amelia Taylor's daughter. She's particular about who serves the girl. Don't touch that table." Lena's eyes flicked back to the girl, who had just knocked over the delicate vase at the center of the table. Water spilled fast, soaking the front of her ivory dress. The child gasped, not loud but sharp, and reached for napkins with unsteady hands, missing the spill entirely. "I said don't," Kevin repeated, sharper this time, noticing Lena stepping toward the girl. Lena paused only for a breath. Her voice was firm, quiet, but laced with steel. "She's scared." Kevin exhaled hard, fingers still tapping on his screen. "Lena, you're on probation. You do not get to make choices here. If Miss Taylor finds out you interfered—" "She already left her daughter here for over an hour," Lena shot back, keeping her voice level. "What's she gonna do, fire me for bringing her a napkin?" Kevin's jaw ticked. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I'm not warning you again." But Lena had already moved. Her apron swayed as she crossed the floor in determined strides, ignoring the side glances from the customers. She crouched slowly beside the girl, lowering herself to eye level. "Hey, sweetheart," she said gently, her voice wrapping around the girl like a warm shawl. "I'm Lena. I'm just here to help you clean up a little. Would that be okay?" The girl froze, then tilted her head slightly toward the sound. "Where's my mom?" "She's not back yet," Lena replied. "But you're not alone. You made a bit of a splash here," she added with a soft laugh, dabbing the spill with practiced movements. "But don't worry, we're getting it." The girl hesitated, then whispered, "I'm Maya, and Mom's going to be upset. She said not to talk to anyone or ask for anything." Lena smiled, gentle and real. "Well, lucky for both of us you didn't ask. I volunteered." Maya's lips twitched into a shy, almost guilty smile. "You're lying." Lena blinked. "What makes you say that?" "You sound like someone who lies to make kids feel better, but you don't mean it bad." Lena let out a surprised chuckle, shaking her head. "You're sharp, Maya." "I'm blind, not dumb," Maya said softly, the corner of her mouth curling just slightly. That hit Lena right in the heart. She remembered her brother, Danny, the way his shoulders used to droop when teachers treated him like a problem to solve. Well, that makes two of us who know that. You want some hot chocolate? Secret between us. Maya hesitated again, then nodded. Lena brought her the chocolate with extra whipped cream, a turkey sandwich cut into careful triangles, and 3 sugar cookies arranged in a circle. She didn't just serve. She guided Maya's hands to each item, describing their position like a clock. Cookies are at 6 o'clock, sandwich is at noon. Maya grinned. You talk like my piano teacher. Probably because my little brother's blind too. I learned early, seeing and understanding aren't the same thing. And just like that, the ice melted. For 15 minutes, Lena sat beside Maya, listening as she talked about the books she loved to read in Braille, how she imagined stars felt like music you couldn't hear. Lena didn't notice the black SUV that pulled up outside, or the woman in a tailored suit watching them through the tinted glass with an unreadable expression. But Kevin noticed. When the glass door swung open, he nearly dropped his tablet. Amelia Taylor had arrived. The Amelia Taylor, CEO of Taylor Dynamics, net worth in the billions, known in private circles for her ruthless precision and intolerance for emotional inefficiency. Tall, severe, and striking, her fitted charcoal dress and diamond earrings did nothing to soften the storm in her eyes as she stepped inside. Kevin was on her in seconds. Aim Taylor. I apologize. Lena wasn't supposed to. Amelia ignored him entirely. She walked across the cafe in a line so straight it looked like a blade. Lena rose as Maya beamed. Mom, Lena's really nice. She brought me cookies and showed me how to feel where they are. Amelia's eyes dropped to the table. The empty plate. The chocolate mug. The half-eaten cookies. She turned to Lena. Her voice was silk-wrapped steel. You're Lena Carter? Lena swallowed. Yes, ma'am. You took it upon yourself to serve my daughter? She was alone. And hungry. A long silence. Even the background jazz seemed to hush. The entire room seemed to hang in suspense. How much do I owe you? Amelia asked, pulling out a card holder from her purse. Lena looked her in the eye. Nothing, it was on the house. Amelia studied her for a moment, then, without another word, took Maya's hand. Let's go, sweetheart. Maya clutched her cup. Can we come back tomorrow, Mom? Lena said she'd teach me the difference between cappuccino and macchiato by the smell. Amelia gave no reply. Kevin stormed over the second they were gone. In my office, now. Lena stood still, jaw tight. She knew she'd just lost her job. What she didn't know was that outside, in the black SUV, Amelia Taylor was already tapping her phone. Lined everything on Lena Carter. I want a full report by morning. Because in the world of the powerful, kindness is either a tool or a threat. It rained that night, the kind of slow, persistent drizzle that soaked into the bones of the city without apology. In her modest apartment above a laundromat on Roosevelt Avenue, Lena Carter sat at her kitchen table, staring at 2 pieces of paper. Her resignation letter, printed and unsigned, and an eviction notice stamped in red. Next to them, a half-empty cup of tea had gone cold. The only light came from the old lamp above her sink, flickering faintly, casting soft shadows on the wall like ghosts from the day. Her phone buzzed. Danny's voice came through, soft and warm. Don't give up, Lena. You always said kindness mattered, even when no one's watching. She smiled despite herself, eyes wet but refusing to cry. I lost my job for helping a child, Dee, she murmured, her voice low, tired. What's the reason for that? The intercom buzzed sharply, cutting off the moment. A voice on the other end was crisp and professional. Miss Carter? Margaret Cheng, legal assistant to Ms. Amelia Taylor. Ms. Taylor requests your presence at Taylor Dynamics headquarters tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock a.m. sharp. Lena's heart skipped. 45 minutes later, she stood in the sweeping glass lobby of Taylor Dynamics, a skyscraper of mirrors and silence. Her reflection, in her best thrift store blazer and scuffed flats, looked terribly out of place among the polished shoes and pearl-bettered suits swarming around her. She kept her chin up. She'd faced worse. She would not shrink here. A silent elevator whisked her up to the 45th floor. The reception area was minimalist, with art too abstract to feel human. Beyond the glass doors, Amelia Taylor stood facing a wall of windows, surveying Newford like a queen contemplating her empire. She didn't turn when Lena entered. Her voice came calm, calculated. "Yesterday you disobeyed direct instructions. You served my daughter when I asked staff explicitly not to." Lena stepped forward, chin lifted. She was hungry. Amelia turned slowly, her expression unreadable. "Do you know why I left her there?" Lena frowned. "No." "To see who would notice her." Amelia walked toward the table, every movement deliberate. It was a test. 17 people passed that table. No one stopped. Not customers, not employees, not her manager, except you. Lena's jaw tightened. "You used your own daughter as bait. That's not a test. That's cruel." A faint smile curved at the corner of Amelia's mouth. "Clarity. I value it. You brought it." Margaret stepped forward and laid a folder on the table. Inside was a check. Lena glanced once and felt her breath catch. More money than she'd ever seen, labeled wrongful termination settlement. She looked up slowly. "I'm not for sale." Amelia raised one eyebrow as though genuinely surprised. "Everyone has a price." "Not me, and especially not when it comes to children." Lena slid the folder back. Her voice didn't tremble, but the fire in her chest burned clean and hot. "You can keep your money. What you did to Maya yesterday, it wasn't strategy. It was abandonment dressed in control." Margaret stiffened, clearly waiting for a storm that never came. Amelia simply studied Lena, tilting her head ever so slightly. "Interesting," she said finally. "My daughter has never asked about anyone after these experiments, but she asked about you multiple times." She turned toward a second file Margaret now opened. "Which brings me to a different proposal." Lena narrowed her eyes. "My daughter needs a companion, someone she trusts. You demonstrated a natural connection with her. I'd like to offer you the position. Live-in, full benefits, schedule flexibility, and a salary 10 times what you made at the cafe." "Well, me?" Lena's voice was cautious. Amelia stepped closer. "Because Maya hears what most people miss. She detects dishonesty like scent. You were honest, and your file is enlightening." She gestured to the documents. "Psychology major, dropped out to care for your brother after your mother's passing. 3 part-time jobs to fund his enrollment at Braxton School for the Blind, consistently top 10 in your class." Lena felt a chill crawl across her spine. "How do you know all that?" Amelia didn't answer. "I have resources. I also know your brother is a musical prodigy. Wellington Academy is offering auditions next month. I could make a call, if you accept the offer." Lena blinked. Her stomach twisted. Emotional manipulation cloaked in opportunity. "That's blackmail." "That's business," Amelia corrected softly. Later, as Lena rode the elevator back down, her phone buzzed again. A message from Wellington Academy. A warm voice on the other end of the line asked to confirm Danny Carter's audition time. Lena closed her eyes. That night, after hours of pacing, she pulled out her old laptop and typed "Amelia Taylor accident daughter blindness." Nothing. But then, something strange. A buried news article with blurred headlines. "CEO's daughter injured in collision." Clicking deeper, she found references to a sealed court case, a private settlement, and, finally, an archived email, leaked long ago, from Amelia's estranged brother, Thomas Taylor. "You were texting while driving, Amelia. The lawyers silenced the story, but you know the truth. Maya deserves to know." Lena leaned back, stunned. The accident that blinded Maya wasn't a twist of fate. It was a mistake. Amelia's mistake. Covered up, buried, sealed. She stared out the window as the city lights flickered below. Her reflection caught in the rain-streaked glass. She now understood. This wasn't about a job. This was about a child locked in a cage made of secrets, watched by a mother obsessed with control. And that meant Lena couldn't walk away. Not for the money, not even for her brother, but because Maya deserved someone who would see her for who she truly was, and give her what no empire ever could, the truth. And what Amelia Taylor didn't realize, yet, was that the woman she'd tried to buy was the same woman now quietly planning to expose the cracks in her kingdom. That realization, the truth behind Maya's blindness, stayed with Lena like a stone under her ribs, pressing deeper with every breath. Still, she accepted the job. Not because she trusted Amelia Taylor, but because the only way to protect Maya was from the inside. The following week, Lena moved into the guest quarters of the Taylor estate, a sprawling white brick mansion tucked behind iron gates in North Newford, where the windows were too clean and the silence too perfect. Maya greeted her with a squeal and a hug that caught Lena off guard. "You really came," she said, her arms wrapping tightly around Lena's waist. "I told Mom you'd come. I could feel it." That night, as they sat in the music room, Maya feeling the ridges of an old jazz record cover, Lena watched Amelia pass in the hallway, her heels clicking like a metronome against marble floors. There was a stiffness to her, a woman walking through her house as if it belonged to someone else, or maybe as if she couldn't trust anything not locked behind a contract. The days that followed were strangely serene. Maya blossomed under Lena's presence, laughing more, asking questions, insisting on helping with breakfast despite often knocking over the milk. "The stars must be like music we can't hear," she said once, tracing the constellations on a braille map Lena had brought her. "We feel like they're there, even when we can't see them." Lena listened, amazed at how much light Maya carried, and how little of it her mother seemed to notice. Amelia rarely joined them, always moving from one meeting to another, her interactions with Maya brief and oddly formal. Questions about therapy schedules, never about feelings. One morning, while organizing Maya's books, Lena found a small wooden box at the back of the closet. Inside was a thin journal and a worn flash drive. Before Lena could ask, Maya spoke quietly from the doorway. "That's Mom's. Trevor helped me hide it. She doesn't know I kept it." "Trevor?" Lena asked. "My uncle. Mom doesn't like when we talk about him." Later that night, once Maya had fallen asleep, Lena plugged the flash drive into her laptop. What appeared on screen took her breath away. Videos of Maya before the accident, laughing in a garden, her eyes wide and full of life, a photo of Amelia smiling in a way Lena had never seen in person, soft, unguarded. Then came the headlines that had never made it past legal suppression. CEO under investigation after daughter injured in accident. Driver of second vehicle settles in closed hearing. And finally, a private email from Trevor. "Vic, this will eat you alive. She deserves to know. You owe her that much." Lena sat in the dark, the screen glowing like a confession. Maya wasn't just a child growing up in blindness. She was living inside a controlled version of reality, curated, managed, manipulated. And Amelia wasn't just hiding guilt. She was actively shaping a world where that guilt could never surface. The next morning, Amelia's tone was lighter than usual. "We're visiting a foundation today," she announced at breakfast, sipping tea like it was a script for visually impaired children. "Maya is coming." Something in her voice felt wrong, rehearsed, like a performance in motion. Lena's instincts kicked in. After helping Maya dress, she slipped a small tracker into the seam of the child's backpack, a leftover gift from a friend in community college who worked in security systems. She told herself it was just precaution. 3 hours later, the tracker pinged a location over 60 miles from the city center. It wasn't a foundation. It was a private clinic, one not listed anywhere on Taylor Dynamics' public charity reports. Alarmed, Lena called the only name that made sense, Trevor Taylor. She had found his number hidden in one of the archived emails and dialed it without hesitation. "She took Maya out of the city," Lena said quickly. "She said it was for a meeting, but it's not." There was silence on the other end, then a deep voice, cautious but alert. "Do you have the address? I've a pin. Can you meet me?" Trevor arrived in under an hour, a man in his early 40s with quiet eyes, tired shoulders, and a face that looked like Amelia's if you scraped off the armor. Together they followed the GPS down a winding countryside road to a secluded white building nestled between trees. Through a frosted window, they saw Maya sitting alone in an exam room, while Amelia argued with a doctor in the hall. "She does this twice a year," Trevor whispered, eyes dark. "Brings Maya here to retest her eyes, not to help, to make sure nothing has changed, that she stays blind." Lena stared at him, horrified. "Why?" "Because she's afraid," he replied. "Afraid that if Maya regains her sight, she'll see her mother for what she really is, the one who caused all this." Lena couldn't breathe, her hands clenched at her sides. She canceled every opportunity, every chance Maya had to see again? Trevor nodded. "I tried to stop her once. She had my company shares frozen in court." They stepped closer. Maya's head turned slightly toward the window, as if she sensed them. Lena pressed her palm against the glass. "That's enough," she whispered. "She deserves the truth." Trevor looked at her, something like respect softening his gaze. "You're really not afraid of Amelia, are you?" "I'm afraid for Maya," Lena replied. Together they pushed open the doors. Amelia's expression shifted the moment she saw them, composed fury masked in elegance. "What are you doing here?" she demanded, stepping between them and the exam room. "It's over," Trevor said, holding up a folder. "I have everything, the accident, the cover-up, the treatments you denied. It's all here." Amelia's voice cracked for the first time. "You don't understand. I can't lose her. If she sees me, really sees me." "She already knows," Lena said, nodding toward the door behind her. Amelia turned just as Maya stepped forward, slowly, carefully, sensing her way toward the voices. "I heard you crying every night," Maya said, her voice quiet yet steady. "I didn't know why, but I always knew you were scared. Myrath..." Amelia's voice faltered. "What I never understood," Maya continued, "was why you didn't let me try." She reached out, touching her mother's face gently, fingers mapping the lines like a braille page. "I wouldn't hate you for the truth, Mom. I hate you for the lies." It was as if the whole world stopped breathing. Behind them, the doctor cleared his throat. "The new therapy has a 60% chance of partial recovery, but your mother has refused it for 5 years. Maya turned to Lena, her hand finding hers. "What would you do?" she asked. Lena knelt beside her. "It doesn't matter what I would do, Maya. What matters is what you want." Amelia stood frozen. She had built an empire out of control, but in this moment none of it could protect her from the simplest force of all, a child choosing for herself. Maya took a long breath. "Then I want to try. I want to see." And as Amelia slowly nodded, a quiet surrender in her eyes, Lena knew this wasn't just the end of a secret. It was the beginning of something far more powerful. That decision, Maya's quiet declaration to try, shifted something deeper than sight. It cracked the wall Amelia had spent years building, a wall mortared with guilt and polished with power. For the first time in a long time she didn't answer with control or calculation. She simply nodded, slowly, as though her body had forgotten how to move without orders. "All right," she whispered. "We'll do it." The doctor didn't speak at first. He simply looked at Lena and Trevor with a kind of quiet awe, as if even he had not expected Amelia Taylor to step aside, even if only by an inch. But it was enough. The arrangements were made swiftly after that. Maya would begin the first phase of the experimental treatment at a specialized clinic 3 hours away, with Trevor personally overseeing the transfer of medical files Amelia had locked down for years. Lena stayed by Maya's side through every consultation, every nerve test, every whisper of possibility, while Amelia lingered at the edge, never too close but never too far. The first few weeks were painful. The treatments left Maya exhausted, her nerves overstimulated, her hopes pulled taut. There were days she cried in frustration, and nights she curled against Lena in silence, too tired to speak. But she never once said she wanted to stop. "I'm not afraid to see Ayadib," she said one evening, her voice hoarse. "I'm afraid of seeing her and not recognizing her anymore." Lena didn't respond right away. She just brushed Maya's curls back from her forehead and said softly, "Sometimes people don't recognize themselves either, but it doesn't mean they're gone." Meanwhile, changes began to ripple far beyond the clinic walls. Back at Taylor Dynamics, whispers floated down boardroom halls. Amelia was leaving early, canceling trips, reassigning public relations campaigns. Rumors circulated that she was investing in a new foundation, something real this time, as one executive muttered. Employees noted her presence in meetings was quieter, her demands less sharp. No longer obsessed with winning, she now seemed focused on understanding Skawes, an entirely foreign strategy to those who feared her. At home, the transformation was more profound. One morning, Maya emerged from her therapy session, her face flushed with excitement. "I saw something," she said breathlessly, grabbing Lena's hand. "It was just a shape, like a blur, but I think it was orange, or brown, I'm not sure. But I saw it." Amelia was standing just behind them, frozen. Lena looked up and saw something she had never seen in the woman's face. Disbelief laced with tenderness and fear. In the following weeks, Maya began to distinguish outlines, then colors on certain days. The therapy wasn't a miracle, but it was progress, and for a child who had spent 5 years in the dark, it was a kind of rebirth. Amelia began spending time with her daughter in small ways, reading aloud, sitting beside her during therapy, even joining her and Lena at the piano when Danny, Lena's brother, came to visit. The first time Maya and Danny played a duet together, Amelia stood in the doorway, unmoving, until tears tracked silently down her cheeks. That night, on the balcony overlooking the city skyline, Amelia joined Lena as the lights shimmered far below. For once, she didn't wear heels, just a cardigan and bare feet on stone. "Did you know she'd get better?" she asked quietly. Lena shook her head. "No, but I knew she deserved the chance." Amelia nodded slowly, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "You know what scares me more than losing her?" she asked, "realizing that for 5 years I kept her in the dark, not because I thought it was best, but because I couldn't stand the idea of her seeing the worst of me." Her voice cracked, almost imperceptibly. "And now she does. And she still wants me near. I don't deserve it." Lena was quiet for a moment. "It's not about deserving. It's about showing up. Every day." The next morning, Lena was summoned to Amelia's office in the mansion. Unlike their previous encounters, the mood was calm, almost reverent. On the desk lay a set of legal documents. "This is a partnership agreement," Amelia said simply. "I want you to run the new foundation. You've already been doing it in everything you do for Maya. I'm formalizing it. 40% ownership. Full autonomy. You'll build programs, outreach, therapy pipelines. Whatever you dream, it's yours." Lena stared at the papers. "Why?" Amelia exhaled. "Because you saw my daughter when I only saw my failure. You taught her to believe again. And you taught me to stop running from the truth." That weekend, on Maya's 11th birthday, the Taylor estate opened its doors for the first time in years, not to senators or shareholders, but to children from the new Site Foundation, along with their families. Laughter echoed through the garden. Tactile sculptures stood proudly beneath banners that Maya had designed. She wore tinted glasses and pointed at trees, delighted to see their shadows dancing in the golden afternoon. In one corner, a young boy approached Amelia and tugged on her sleeve. "Are you blind too?" he asked, curious. Amelia knelt slowly. "No, sweetheart," she said softly. "But I used to be, in a way." Later, when the last guest had gone, Maya handed Amelia a painting, a collage of textures, faint color smudges, and layered materials. "To remind you," she said, "that sometimes we have to lose something to understand what we truly have." Amelia held the gift with trembling hands. Lena stood nearby, quietly observing, her heart full. and as the sun set behind them, casting the mansion in soft gold, neither woman realized that this story, born from a moment of overlooked kindness in a cafe, was only just beginning to shape something even greater. That evening, as golden dusk faded into twilight and the last notes of Maya's birthday duet with Danny still lingered in the air, something settled in the walls of the Taylor mansion, something gentle, something unspoken. For the first time in years, it felt like a home. The air no longer carried the weight of fear or guilt, but the softer hush of healing in motion. Maya's laughter still echoed faintly from the hallway, and Amelia remained in the garden long after the guests had left, holding her daughter's painting in her hands like it was more fragile than porcelain. Across the lawn, Lena watched her from a distance, knowing instinctively not to interrupt. Some things, even for the strongest, had to be faced alone. In the days that followed, the changes deepened. Amelia no longer vanished into meetings or hid behind her calendar. She was present. In therapy sessions, in the kitchen attempting blueberry pancakes with Maya, which they burned twice, and most of all, in silence, learning how to just be without orchestrating every moment. At Taylor Dynamics, she officially stepped back from day-to-day operations, placing the company's future in the hands of a new leadership team, with a clear directive: ethics, transparency, and social investment, starting with significant funding for pediatric vision research. But that wasn't the most radical shift. The true transformation unfolded through the work of the New Sight Foundation. Under Lena's leadership, it became a beacon, funding early intervention therapies, Braille literacy programs, and community art centers for visually impaired children across the country. She partnered with school systems, hosted national summits, and expanded access in rural areas often forgotten by larger institutions. Donors and media outlets soon learned what Maya had known all along. Lena Carter was not just a woman who cared. She was a woman who acted, with quiet courage and relentless compassion. As for Danny, his audition at Wellington Academy turned into a full scholarship. Within months, he was performing across the East Coast, stunning audiences with compositions born from a world he never saw but always felt. He often visited the foundation on weekends, sitting beside Maya to compose tactile music pieces together, songs built from vibration, rhythm, and imagination. One crisp fall afternoon, Amelia approached Lena on the terrace overlooking the garden. Maya was nearby, sculpting a new piece, a twisting figure inspired by the movement of wind through leaves. "I used to think control was what made me strong," Amelia said, her tone contemplative. "But control made me small. You made us expand." Lena glanced at her but said nothing. Amelia continued, "I spent years building a life of glass. You showed up and helped us live outside it." Lena smiled, a quiet one. "You knocked the walls down yourself. I just reminded you there was more beyond them." And it was true. Because it hadn't been the money, or the influence, or even the revelations that changed Amelia Taylor. It had been the slow, painful process of seeing not just her daughter's needs, but her own wounds, her own humanity. The act of truly seeing, of being seen, had unraveled her empire and rebuilt something better. On the first anniversary of the Foundation's launch, the mansion once again filled with laughter, music, and children exploring an outdoor art exhibit Maya had curated. Her vision remained partial. Shapes, shadows, bursts of warm color on good days, but she no longer feared what she couldn't see. She had learned to shape the world through what she felt, what she loved, and who she chose to trust. That evening, as the sky dimmed and lanterns flickered to life along the garden path, Maya stood beside Lena and whispered, "You changed everything." Lena shook her head gently. "No, sweetheart, you did. I just saw you when the world forgot to look." In a quiet moment, a little girl tugged at Amelia's sleeve. "Are you the one who started all this?" she asked. Amelia crouched to her level, smiling. Not the practiced smile of a CEO, but the softened one of a mother who had finally forgiven herself. "No," she replied. "It started with someone braver than me. A waitress who chose kindness when no one else did. as the lights glowed soft around them and music drifted from the piano on the porch. The camera of memory zoomed out, not from the wealth or prestige, but from the warmth of second chances, the miracle of truth, and the belief that one act of courage, even in the quietest corner of a cafe, can ripple through generations. And though the story seemed to end there, with healing, with family, with justice fulfilled, it was really just the beginning. Because now Lena Carter, the woman who once wiped down counters and refused to put a price on her soul, stood at the helm of a movement. And in the lives she touched next, in every child who walked through the doors of new sight, in every parent who learned to hope again, the story would live on. Not every act of kindness is rewarded, but some change the world forever. Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.